Okay. How's everybody doing today? Right? I know the holidays is coming up, and I really don't like being a sour push or party crasher, but it's time for us to learn what gods are and be honest with ourselves and accept that we've been played by highly intellectual people and apparently a large population of our people are not that smart. I mean, they're or intelligent, should I say? They're smart. They know how to read and regurgitate what they've read, but they don't know how to investigate the intentions of either the writer or the people who are promoting the information. So yeah, they're all high. They're smart, can read big words. Me, during the course of this right here, I will be messing up tremendously on words as far as names, right? These names, at some point, I'm gonna just give up and just let it be and let you go. I'm always gonna provide the information for you to actually go and look up this yourself, and you can do it like that if you want. All right. All right. Okay, so first, I want us to address Enuma, Anu, Enlil, right? Anu and Enlil are gods, right? So in this statement is saying when the gods Anu and Enlil, right, abbreviation EAE, is a subject, excuse me, right? Is a major series of 68 to 70 tablets, depending on the recession, dealing with Babylonian astrology. The bulk of the work is substantial collection of omens, estimated to number between 6,500 and 7,000, which interpret a wide variety of celestial and atmospheric phenomena in terms relevant to the king and state. Right? So let me bring myself back real quick. Now, my argument is that the first gods were these sages, these intelligent men. They were the one who operated the system of God first. Then the king stepped in, right? The brute, the one who brought it all under one system, right? So let's go into this. Take myself out of here, right? It goes, the seven sages are also mentioned in the Epic of Era, aka Song of Era, or Era in Ishelm. Here again, they are referenced in Paradu fish. In this text, in the text is described how after the flood, Marduk banished them from Abzu. Once the Apakulu were banished, Marduk's phrasing becomes rhetorical left. Where are the seven Apakula of Apu, the holy carp, who are perfect and lofty wisdom like their Lord, who can make my body holy, right? So he understood the game. He understood the game. He said, listen, you're out of here. We can run this. But, right, finally, persuades Marduk to leave his temple and fetch back the Apocula from their banishment, reassuring that he will keep order which Marduk is away. However, chaos breaks out. Through some of the texts, though some of the text is missing, it seems that the subsequent outcome was that instead, earthly Emimians are given the task of cleaning Marduk's shrine. So after Marduk passes away, right? When we see, I always use the reference to the Freemason. Right, the Freemason is this person who is not necessarily up to that task, but they're taking the task, right? They're given this task to help build the Luciferian system. Yes, Freemasonry is Luciferian system. I know you're gonna say, "Oh, but they're good." What that mean? What does that mean? What do you assume these Luciferians are that you can't see your uncle, your father, your moms, your aunt, or whoever went inside that lodge that you can't see them down with this system? Oh, because they say because they were Christians. Okay, I mean, now they liars. they never said they were truth tellers. You know what I'm saying? So keep that in mind, right? So breaks out Marduk shrine. Vinging infers that this text that the mythological role of the Apoculu was to aid the god Marduk in keeping creation stable by maintenance of Marduk's idols. Right, so when we look at Christianity and we see that system and keeping the idols alive and these type of things, we should be able to see it from the God aspects and how the and how this is the system that's in front of us. From all religions, from the old to the Jews, the Marduk and Sargon and all of that traditions is being fought because, Christianity with Julius Caesar, Augustus and them, they set up their own system and basically erased all of that history. So when you see the new system coming about, it's like they signed up with the LBG community as long as they got to their kings and all of that back inside the seats of idol worshiping, right? Okay. So it says building stories. Now, this is very important because as we go through the Bible in this, we learn how these stories are just built. And if we actually did our research into these stories, we would find the truth. Or at least, let me say this, right? You might not know how to do the research into the story. So let's say if you went back in history and studied the people at the time, because this is what I did. I'm studying the people of that time. Right, and of that time and the things that and these are through different periods of times. So I'm not just studying the people of the Babylonian and the Egyptian system. I also studied the Romans and the Greeks. Right, I also studied the British Empire, the French, the Germans, and the formations of these systems to understand what we are up against. If you don't understand how it all was laid down and what it was laid down for, you won't understand how to get yourself out of the trap. The seven sages have enlarged it for you from the south to the uplands north. Temple him, the house of Ashaluhi a at Korah. I said some of this stuff I'm gonna just not even attempt, or I might. I don't wanna just make up a word, but just for the sake of argument, I'll give it like a scholar's attempt, right? The Sumerian temple hymn states that seven sages here as Abgal enlarged a temple. The seven sages were also associated with the founding of the seven cities, right? Of Urkadu, Nepal, Kulab, Kish, Lagash, and Surapak. And in the Epic of Gilgamesh, right, they are credited with laying the foundation of Urk, right? So we see that the foundation is a mandatory thing. Like when I put up George Washington is the God of America. He laid the foundation, right? Outside of the British Empire, of course. But when it came to breaking away from that system, or supposedly breaking away, because he really didn't. Once he became a Freemason, he was right back under that system again. But when we look at George Washington, we have the Washington Monument, which is a phallic symbol, right, to lay the foundation. So we have Washington State, which is, the cornerstone of this system. And we listen to the phrasing from Freemasons and building and stuff like that, we get the understanding, right? So that's why when we say, is it like the old Egyptians way? Yes. But when we talk about Freemasonry, they are not necessarily talking about those Egyptians in that way, even though they are, but they're talking a more sinister way as well. And we'll be getting into that, or we have gotten into that on other shows as well. Okay. Berusas, right? Babylonia. Berusas wrote a history of Babylon in around 281 BC, during the Hellenistic period. According to his own account, he was a Chaldean priest of Bel, Marduk. His Babylonia was written in Greek, probably for the Seleucid court of Antiochus I. His work gives a description of the wise men, their names, and the associated kings. Berusas' original book is now lost, but parts have survived via the abridgment and copying of historians, including Alexandria. My fault. I thought y'all could see this. I like to let y'all see it for yourself. Alexandria Polyhistora, Josephus, Abius. Right, these are just names I'm not gonna get. Meyer Brustein suggests that Berusas' work was partly metaphysical, intended to convey wisdom concerning the development of man, right? So it's telling you, it was just meant to, just like when we read the Bible, right? It's just the development of man's accomplishments, right? And again, is paying homage to the ruler it was able to perform this task under. That's where we get the God. So we have God the founders, which we can quote unquote make them demigods if you want, right? We have or the sages, which again would be demigods to some degree, right? Because they didn't do the greatness of the emperor and bring it all under one, set. Right? Barusius, Barusius' work is partly, I got that, nuance, lost, or commitment on a later copyist. Right? Let's go here. Okay. Apokulu and Abgal. Akkadian and Sumerian, respectively, are terms found in cuneiform inscriptions that in general mean either wise or sage. In several contexts, Apokula are 7 demigods, sometimes described as part man and part fish or bird, associated with the human wisdom. These creatures are often referred to in scholarly literature as the 7 sages. Sometimes the sages are associated with a specific primeval king. At the Great Flood, Epic of Gilgamesh, further sages and kings are listed post-deluge. The sages are considered human, and in some texts are distinguished by being referred to as Manu or Apekul. The term Apaku Agal is also used in efforts for kings and gods as a mark of wisdom or knowledge, right? So we see that these individuals, right, or gods are those with high intellect, right, who was able to move society along with whether their inventions, their discoveries, and these sorts of things, right? A further use of the term apokula is in reference to the figures used in atmospheric rituals. These figurines include fishmen, hybrids, representing the 7 sages, but also include bird-headed and other figures. Right? In a later work of Barusus, described Babylonia, the Apokula appear again, also described as fishmen, who was sent by the gods to impart knowledge to humans. And Barusus, the first one, Ones, a variant of Unan, is said to have taught humans the creation myth, the Enuma Elsis. The term apokula has multiple uses, but usually refers to some form of wisdom. Translation of the term generally equates to English language uses in the term the wise, sage, or expert. Right? So understand what this is saying to you, right? The term apokula has multiple uses, but usually refers to some sort of wisdom. Translations of the term generally equate to English language use of the term the wise, sage, or expert. That's very important because when we look at how they paid homage to the intelligence back then and now, but the intelligence is hiding, right? So because it's busy, doing scientifical things, so they have these sophists, these slick talkers who basically give you this diluted information in a way that keeps you distracted, but also intrigued in it, right? As an effort prefect or adjective, it can mean the wise. It has been used as an effort for the gods and Marduk, simply interpreted as wise one amongst gods. So it was not only just having, a god, but a wise god, one who was highly intelligent as well. On similar forms, it has also been applied to Enlil, right? Which I did many stories on Enlil, or the first Adam, the first god of the New Testament, Ninitra and Adad. The term also refers to the seven sages, especially the sage Adapa, and also to African figures, which are often figurines of the seven sages themselves. A collection of names and titles of these seven sages in order can be given as Una, who finished the plans for heaven and earth, right? And we'll be getting to that to a second. Ugangia, who was endowed with comprehensive intelligence, right? And Meduga, who was allotted a good faith, and Magalama, who was born in a house, and Mabuluga, who grew up on a pastured land, and Lilda, the conjurer of the city of Eridu, at Tuzumbu, who ascended to the heavens. And the last one we can think of, like Enoch, who ascended to heaven. Right now, the rest of these, the first one we can look at as who was the one they was talking about in the book of Job, which is the oldest book of the Bible that most of us use today. So the oldest book of the Bible would be Job, and that's why he is mentioned again throughout. In the Torah. Right? So additionally to the terms in use from referring to human priests, also Exodus and diviners. However, Mesopotamian human sages also used the term Minimu, Manu, expert, meaning expert. Right? So now let's look at the book of Job real quick, since I told you that Unanu could have been the sage that they was talking about. Right? It goes, he speaks to the sun and it does not shine. He alone stretches out the heavens and treads on the waves of the sea. He is the maker of the bear and Orion, the Pleiades, and the constellations of the south. Let me show myself as I read this, right? He is the maker of the bear and Orion and the Pleiades and the constellations of the south. He performs wonders that cannot be fathomed, miracles that cannot be counted. When he passes me, I cannot see him. When he goes by, I cannot perceive him. If he snatches away, who can stop him? Who can say to him, what are you doing? God does not restrain his anger. Even the cohorts of Rehab cowered at his feet. How then can I dispute with him? How can I find words to argue with him? See, he's not on that level, and he's not inside that system. That system was brutal. It had to be for the secrets to be kept, and making sure that you didn't give away the secrets that kept the order of society. Like me, I'm giving away the secrets. Uana, Oanis, or Adapa, the first of these legendary fishermen sages is known as Onanis, Sumerian, Unan. On a few cuneiform inscriptions, this first sage has Adapa appended on his name. Bulgar notes, however, that it is difficult to believe that a half-man, half-fish Adapa is the same as the fishman in Adapa's myth, the son of the god Ed. A potential solution was given by W.G. Lambert, evidence that Adapa was also used as an appellative meaning wise. So it's just like an add-on to the word. So it was, you hear this story, right? And so it's building inside the story. It works like that. It's in the story that you get the truth. Hold on a minute here. All right. Pardon me there. Right? Okay. Notes, however, wise. Adapa's story in both the first and last Apokulu, Nye finally notes that the name used for the first Apokulu is given in both Barusu and in the Urk King's list, that is Uan. Oanis was once conjured to be a form or another name of the ancient Babylonian god Eh. It is now thought that the name is the Greek form of the Babylonian Anun or Apokula. Literature, evidence. Right now, as you know, I always say that the wizards or the sages are in Oz. So Oz, let's go. Let me show you Oz real quick, because Oz is just a kingdom, right? So let's go over here, right? So it says Oz, Hebrew meaning strength or might, right? So that's the king. Here, the Hebrew word Oz primarily denotes strength or might, often in the context of physical power or moral fortitude. It can also refer to a place of refuge or of protection, symbolizing God's strength as a source of security for his people. So as you see, all you got to do is just go to your search engine and type in Oz, Hebrew meaning, right? And you'll get the same information. Right? So make sure we on the same thing. Pardon me here. Okay, so we're back here. Literature evidence. So now we understand that the wizard is the sage and Oz is the place, designed the kingdom, right? So it's the sage of the kingdom. These sages are found in the Urk list of kings and sages, 165 BC, discovered in 1959-60 in the Seleucid era temples of Anu and Bit Rest. The text consists of list of 7 kings and their associated sages, followed by a note on the deluge. See Gilgamesh flood myth, followed by 8 more king sage pairs. Right? So in this right here, I'm gonna be honest with you, it's kind of difficult for me to get these names. Like Ayala, right, was the king. Adapa was the sage during the reign of Alagra, the king. Undanga was the sage during the reign of Amelia, the king, and Menduga, the sage, during the reign of Migalena, the king, and Migalama, the sage. Right, and you see how their names kind of associate with each other. During the reign of Enmisumgalana, the king, and Mibaugula, the sage. During the reign of Damuzi, which is very important, the shepherd, the king, and Madeli was sage. Now, Damuzi is important because that's also the seat that Julius Caesar took, and these are the reasons why there's so much beef with the Christian faith and the Middle Easterner and the Jew, if you need to know. During the reign of Enmed Dorenki, the king, Utu Abuzu was sage. After the flood, during the reign of Anmerkar, the king, Nakpagal, was sage, whom Ishtar brought down from heaven to Enan. Eonan, my fault. He made the bronze lyre according to the technique of Niningao. The lyre was placed before Anu, the dwelling of his personal God. Like I said, now we look at Enlil, right? We see that he's the one credited with creating the hoe, right, or the matlock, and we see that in the Bible, right? So this is just somebody who they pay homage to with the music part of things, right? During the reign of Gilgamesh the king, Sin Leki Unini was scholar. During the reign of Ibisen, the king, Kabti Ili Marduk was the scholar. During the reign of Isbi era king, Siddu, aka Enlil Ibn, was scholar. During the reign of Abi Eshush, the king, Gil, Mil, Gula, and Takish Gula were the scholars. So it was two scholars at that time. During the reign of, they didn't give the king's name, Esagil Ken Apel was scholar. During the reign of Adad Apla Edidin, the king, Esagil Ken Uba was the scholar. During the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, didn't get that, the king, Esgil Ken Uba was the scholar. Right? So we let you look at that real quick. So you understand that the scholars and the kings work side by side. Right? During the reign of Adad Apal, I read that. During the reign of Nebuchadnezzar, the king, Escagal Ken Uba was the scholar. During the reign of Eshhadon, the king, Adad and Lil, the Bree was scholar, whom the Amramines call Ash-Higar. Right? Note that the root of these words is the same, right? As that from the following sage, right? Doran, and this is just a footnote there. Okay. Lazi noted that the list is clearly intended to be taken in chronological order and is an attempt to connect real historical kings directly with mythological divine kingship, and also does the same connecting these real king sages, Manu, with demi-godly mythic seven sages Apakula, right? So with this, we again see that when they say, the mythical, they're just, talking about how they turned it into this, into this mysterious thing, and paying homage to people who had passed away, because you only got this accredited after you passed away. That way, the system of mysticism works. Right? So when you think about the gods and all of that, these are just rulers who passed away. Right? Through the list, though the list is taken to be chronological, the text does not portray the sages nor the kings as genealogically related to each other or their kings. There is some similarity between the sages and kings' names and the list, but not enough to draw any solid conclusion, meaning that for me, this is how I understood that, because I know that when you die, you take a different name. So maybe these were the names given to them after death. Maybe. I don't know. I'm just calculating off of other things that I've seen. Right? Bet's Messiri. The list, similar to the Urk list of the seven sages, followed the four human sages, is also given in Apocryptic Insecration, a tablet series, Bit Messery. The rituals involve hanging or placing statues on the sage of the sage on the wall of a house. A translation, hold on, right? A translation of the cuneiform was given by Borgia. Incarnations Anna was accomplishes the planes and heavens of earth. Now that's Job 9. I did that already for you. Anan Diga, who is endowed with comprehensive understanding, and Maduga, for whom the good destiny has been decreed, and Galama, who was born in a house, and Mabu Laguga, who grew up in pasture land. I think did I do this already? Hold on. No, okay. Grew up in pasture lands, right? Who conjured the city. Yeah, I did this. The pure pseudo fish, the perudo fish of the sea, and the seven of them. The seven sages who have originated in the river, who control the plains of heaven and earth. Right? Let's see here. This name I'm not even gonna attempt to do. The wise king of and Mercurius, who had the goddess and then Ishtar descend from heaven into the sanctuary. Another name I'm not gonna do, who was born in Kish, was who angered the god Ishkur Adad in heaven, so that he allowed neither rain nor growth in the land for 3 years. Another name I'm not going to do, who was born in Adab, Utab, who hang his seal on the goat fish and thereby angered the god Enki and the fish water sea, so that the fuller struck him dead with his own seal. Fourth, Lunana, who was 2/3 a sage, who drove a dragon out of Temple E, named Nana, and then Ishtar temple of King Shugi. Although 4 sages of human descent, whom Enki and the Lord endowed with comprehensive understanding, translated the English of, right, okay, so that's just something we don't really need. Okay, goes the 12-1 politics. No, the 21, I'm saying 12-1. New Dinman became angry. Let me make sure y'all can see this. Came angry and summoned the 7 sages of Eridu and high tones. Bring my document of any of my anuship, that it may be read before me, that I may decree the destiny for Mu'iti, the son who makes me happy, and grant him his desire. They brought and read the tablet of Destinies and the great gods. he decreed the destiny of him and gave him Anumati, I didn't get that right, the purification priest Eridu, made 21 politices and gave them to him. The text given the story known as the 21 politis contains duplications of much of the bit message text concerning the seven sages. It also analyzed by Ruins 1961. Another text from Urk was later found that dedicated the further completed the coverage of Bruno text. Renner text. The 21 Polycteos text, the seven sages of Eridu, are entrusted with the reading tablets of destiny. Additionally, the sage and Lilida is the maker of the 21 palictics. These items are then given to Nadrian to bring to the upper world and gain merit. Right? So, it's telling you what it is. Right? It's telling you that these wise men are the creators of these things, right? The poem of era. I made those animus apiculas go down to Apu, and I said they were not to come back up. Poem, right? It goes, the seven sages are also mentioned in the epic of Era, the song of Era or Era. Here again, they are referred to as Peridou fish, and the text is described how after the flood, Marduk banished them back to Apakul Abzu. Once the Apakulu are banished, Marduk's phrases, yeah, I did that already, right? Okay, building the story. Okay, so let me see. It goes, now this is to show you in history. Aristotle was the tutor of Alexander the Great, starting when Alexander was just 13 years old, as chosen by his father, King Philip II of Macedon. Their teacher-student relationship lasted nearly 20 years, during which Aristotle profoundly influenced Alexander's education, shaping his intellectual pursuit and approach to leadership and governance. This connected and considered one of the most significant mentor-student relationships in history, blending philosophical thoughts with military strategy, which played a critical role in Alexander's later conquests. Let me say something, right? If we was to look at the Christianity, right? Julius Caesar and them, and we go and we say, who is the founder of modern of Western philosophy, right? It would tell you the founder of Western philosophy would be Socrates via, Plato, right? Now, so we can see that Aristotle, who was a student of Plato, took the same teachings on and got it into, royal house, right? Now we can see that's the sages. We can see how they worked together, right? So now right? The evil demon hypothesis introduced by Rene Descartes is a philosophical concept that questions the reliability of our perceptions and beliefs, suggesting that a powerful deceiver could manipulate our experience, right? And so we can see this person March 31st, right? 7/15, this is when he passed away, right? And so the reason why that's important, because, right, Queen Elizabeth's reign began, so we're 40 years later, right, after this whole situation of Queen Elizabeth I, we get, and Queen Elizabeth I, mind you, is, right, we already did it here, but let me see if I can pull it up again for you, right? Hold on. Right? House of Pride. The House of Pride is the noble setting by Emmanuel Spencer, right? The Fairy Queen. Fairy is short for Lucifer, right? Queen, 1590, 1596. So we look and we see how all of these things were developed around the same time, right? This system of deception, right, was founded around the same time because they set up their own system. They was taking on, Christianity, right? So let me come back here, right? And so it goes, Renaissance magic was a resurgence of Hermeticism and Neoplatonic. Who's that? Plato. That's right. Varieties of the magical art. So if you study Plato, you understand the magical arts, which arose during the Renaissance humanism in the 15th and 16th century CE. During the Renaissance period, magic and occult practices underwent significant changes that reflected shifts in cultural, intellectual, and religious perspectives. C.S. Lewis, in his work on English literature, highlighted the transformation and how magic was perceived and portrayed in medieval stories. Magic had a fantastical, and fairy-like quality, while in the Renaissance it became more complex and tied to the ideas of hidden knowledge that could be explored through books and rituals. This change is evident in the works of authors like Spencer, Marlowe, Chapman, and Shakespeare, who treated magic as a serious and potentially dangerous pursuit. Now, I gave you examples of Shakespeare and how you could find him in the Bible. We can get into that on a later note. But this was just to show you this system of God and how God works, even in the sense of the scientists, right? The demigod or the first gods in the book. I hope you enjoyed this one right here. Until next time, peace.